بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, my dear students, in today's English lesson. What are we going to do in this lesson? Let's take a look. So we are in Unit 5, Is there any ice cream? And today's lesson is going to be a grammar lesson. Now, but before we start with this grammar lesson, let's check the previous homework. What were you asked to do and what did you do about it? So you were asked to complete the conversation to order food from the menu. Now, here there's a conversation between Sarah and the customer. Now, what's the picture that you can see here? So it looks like the conversation is going to be about what? Looks like it's going to be about pizza. Now, let's take a look here. You were asked to write the question for this answer. The answer was from the customer. The customer said, yes, I would like to order pizza. So, what is the question? Would you like to order something? So, it's a yes-no question. Would you like to order something? We used would you at the beginning of the question. Here, the answer is yes, I would like to order pizza. So, now how about the second, let's check the second answer so we can see that what question did you use here? The answer was, no thank you, I don't like mushrooms. So the question is going to be a yes-no question and it's going to be related to mushrooms and the pizza, right? Now, what was the answer? The question? Do you want mushrooms in your pizza? So this is the question. Do you want mushrooms in your pizza? The answer is no thank you, I don't like mushrooms. So this is a preference. So the person said that they don't like the mushrooms. They don't want it in their pizza. So they did modify the order to have a pizza without mushrooms. Now, let's take a look. What are we going to do in this lesson? So the title is still Is there any ice cream? But today is a grammar lesson. So what are we going to do here? What grammar rule are we going to learn about to help us order food or to ask about anything? Now, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to differentiate between count and non-count nouns. What is count and non-count nouns? What is the difference between them? And you are going to use expressions of quantity. Expressions of quantity. What are some expressions of quantity? Now, let's take a look at this picture first. What can you see in the picture? As you can see here, I can see tomato, I can see cheese, I can see olives, I can see a salad, I can see different kinds of cheese, and looks like this is some bread, right? And some baked potato in that tray. So we have food in this picture, but what are we going to use? Are we going to say some tomato, a tomato? What is the correct way to put it in a sentence? So now all of these are nouns. We have three kinds of nouns. We have count nouns, we have non-count nouns, and we have both. So what is the difference and what are we going to do about it? So count nouns like what? Like carrots. I can count carrots, right? I want a salad with 3 carrots. So I can count them. So carrots, it's a count noun. How about non-count? If you have a bowl of rice, can you count the rice in the bowl? It will take forever, but it's a non-count, so you can't count the rice. Now, if you're drinking tea, can you count the tea? You can count the cups of tea, but how about the tea itself? Can you count it? So the answer is no. That's why it's called non-count. You cannot count it. And there's something for both. You can use it as countable or in a count or non-count. Like salad. I want some salad, or I want a salad. That means only one salad. So let's take a look at each one of these. Let's start with count nouns. So what are count nouns? Count nouns name things that you can count, like 1 carrot, 2 carrots, and it could be different things. Carrots, tomato, cucumbers, all of these, you can count them. So it's a count noun. Okay, so they have singular and they have plural. I have 1 carrot, or I have 3 carrots. See, we did add S at the end of the word carrots because it's more than 1. It's plural. How about, let's try for chair. So I know we're not going to eat the chair, but how about the word chair? Can we count it? I bought a chair. I bought only 1 chair. And I can say, I bought 2 chairs. I bought 2 chairs. We did add S at the end of the word chair, right? Because it's plural, it's more than 1. So these words are count nouns. Now, how about the non-count nouns? Let's take a look. Non-count nouns name things that you cannot count, like rice, tea, and we have different examples. So they don't use a or an. Can I say I'm eating a rice? Does that mean I'm going to put only 1 rice on my spoon and eat it? Actually, when you're eating rice, you're going to scoop it with your spoon and your spoon will be filled with rice, right? You cannot count it. It's a non-count. So we are not going to use a or an for non-count nouns. So, but if we're going to use the word, what are we going to use? So they don't have plural too. So you can't use a or an, and they don't have plural. You can't say, I want rices, I want teas. You can't say it. It's not correct. So rice and tea are examples for non-count. So you can use it for, they don't have a plural. You can't use it with a or an. Let's take a look at this example. I ordered Indian food with rice. I ordered Indian food with rice. So did we see here with a rice? With rices? No, because the word rice, it's a non-count. How about this example? I will have some tea. I will have some tea. So in the sentence, did you see it? I will have a tea. I will have teas. No, because it's a non-count. Now let's take a look at this here. Some nouns can be both, can be count or non-count nouns. Like what? Like the example here, salad. I can say a salad or some salad. I can say a soup or some soup. When you're having soup, can you count the soup? No, you can't. So that's why it could be it's a non-count, but you can use it here. A soup, that means a bowl of soup or some soup. So because it's a non-count, right? It can be both. Now let's take a look here. May I have some salad, please? It's a question. It's a request. May I have some salad, please? Before the word salad or the non-count salad, we have the word some. See? So how about this is a delicious soup. Delicious soup. So here we have the word a delicious soup. So here it can be both count or non-count. Now let's take a look. When you're expressing, you want to order something and we want to know the quantity, expressions of quantity. For expressions of quantity, we are going to use either some or any. But when are we going to use some and when are we going to use any? So let's take a look at the first one here. Some. Use some in affirmative statements. I want some rice. And we can use any in negative or negative statements and in questions. Do you have any rice? I'm not sure. Is the answer yes or no? Right? But here I know that there is rice. That's why I'm asking, I want some rice. But here, because I'm not sure, I'm going to use any. Is there any rice? Now, Let's take a look. Use some and any with non-count nouns and with plural nouns. So some and any, we can use it for both count and non-count nouns. Now let's take a look at some examples here. So for the affirmative, we know for sure that it's there. So there is some juice. There is some juice. So juice, is it a count noun or a non-count noun? It's a non-count. You can't count the juice in the glass, right? You can count the cups, you can count the glasses, but not the juice itself. So is there some juice? And let's take a look here. There are some fries. There are some fries. It's a statement, affirmative one. We're sure. It's a positive. We're positive that there is some fries. Now let's take a look at the negative forms. There isn't any juice. There isn't any juice. And here, there aren't any fries. There aren't any fries. So here, let's take a look. We have isn't for is not. There is not any juice. And there are not any fries. So here, it's a negative statement. We don't have it. Unlike here, there is some juice. We know there is some juice, but there aren't here any juice. Aren't any. So for the negative, we're using any. Now, how about in the questions? For the questions, what are we going to use? Some or any? Which one is the correct one? So let's take a look. Is there any juice? We're going to use any with questions. Are there any fries? Are there any fries? We're going to use any also here in the question. Now, let's try to ask the question and answer, okay? Is there any juice? If it's yes, we're going to say yes, there is some juice. But what if the answer is no? There isn't any juice. Now, let's take a look here. Are there any fries? I'm asking a question. Are there any fries? I'm not sure. Is there any fries or not? So, are there any fries? Because I'm not sure. So, if the answer is yes, I can say yes, there are some fries. We use the word some, affirmative. Now, but if the answer is no, I can say no, there aren't any fries. Now, sometimes some is used in questions for offers. When you're offering, you have to use some. Unlike here, when we are using any. Let's take a look at this example. Do you want some pizza? It's offering. Do you want some pizza? So you can answer yes or no, right? So when you're offering, use some. Don't use any. Now let's take a look at this question here. How about some coffee? How about some coffee? We're offering coffee. That's why we're using the word some. Now, let's take a look at this conversation here. There's a question and an answer. Let's take a look at the way of the question and what is the answer going to look like for the question. So, use would like for preferences. So things, would you like it or don't you like it? Things you don't like. Now, let's take a look at the question. What would you like? What would you prefer? So what would you like? This is the question. What is the answer here? I'd like a steak sandwich. I'd like a steak sandwich. So here, I'd like, it means I would like a steak sandwich. Now, did you see how did we use would like here for preferences? How about the second question? So here we have, would you like some mustard on it? Would you like some mustard on it? On the sandwich? So the answer could be yes or no, right? Because it's a yes-no question. We have would like at the beginning of the question. The answer could be yes, please, if you want, and no, thank you, if you don't want. Okay, so yes, please, and no, thank you are a polite way to respond to this kind of question. Please and thank you. Now, let's take a look at the pictures here. What can you see in the pictures? So I can see juice, orange juice, and I can see a cup of water. I can see coffee, I can see cake. But when we're ordering things and we want the exact quantity for this, what are we going to say? So we're going to say a bottle of juice. Look at the juice. Where is the juice? Is it in a cup? It's not in a cup. Is it in a glass? No, it is a bottle of juice. So this container is a bottle. So a bottle of juice. So here we have bottle, it's the container that the juice is in, and here we have of, a bottle of juice. Now how about this next one here, the coffee? A cup of coffee, a cup of coffee. So I can count the cups, but I can't count the coffee itself, right? So a cup of coffee, to ask exactly for it, I can say, would you like a cup of coffee? Would you like a cup of coffee? So here, this is the container for it. So a cup of coffee. Now, the next one, a glass of water. Look at the water here. It's in a glass, right? I can't count the water, but I can count the glasses. So a glass of water. How about the last one? So all of these are drinks. How about this one? Is it a drink? Actually, you can't drink the cake, but cake is kind of food. So what are we going to say here? A piece of cake. A piece of cake. Here, it's not the whole cake, just a piece of this cake. I want a piece of this cake. So here we have a bottle, cup, glass, and piece for quantities. Now, do you remember when we talked before about the idioms? So it is a word, a group of words, but they have a different meaning than the words itself. When I say the exam was a piece of cake, does that mean the exam have pieces of cake? No, it's an idiom. Can you connect the ideas? So a piece of cake, here we have an actual piece of cake. But when you say as an idiom, a piece of cake, that means it's easy. Now, let's take a look. We want to mark these nouns with C if it's count and N for non-count. Let's take a look. We have 9 words here, and let's decide which ones are the count nouns and which ones are the non-count. Let's start with ice cream. What do you think? Is it count or non-count? It's a non-count. So look at the question here. Is there any ice cream? There aren't any ice cream. So in the answer I used any because it's a non-count. How about potatoes? Look at the end. We have S. Potatoes. It's what? It's a count. I can count. 1 potato, 2 potatoes. Now how about eggs? Eggs. We have S. So it's what? Count. I can count the egg. Now how about cheese? It's a non-count. I can't count the cheese inside the piece, but I can count the pieces of the cheese. How about chocolate? So chocolate, it's a non-count. How about vegetables? Here we have S at the end of the word. So it's a count noun. Sandwiches. Sandwiches. Look at the end here. We have S. I can count. 1 sandwich, 2 sandwich, 10 sandwiches. How about juice? So before we mentioned that juice is a non-count noun. The last one is tomatoes. Tomatoes. So is it a count or non-count? It is a count. I can count the tomatoes. Now, let's use here in these sentences, we are going to complete it with a or some. Now, let's start here. I'd like, then we have the word cheese. Now, cheese sandwich, and here we have a space, soft drink. Which one is the correct one? What are we going to use here? I'd like a cheese sandwich because it's not the cheese itself. We're not counting the cheese. We're counting the sandwiches. Cheese sandwich. I'd like a cheese sandwich, and how about soft drink? Count or non-count? A soft drink. Only one. I want a soft drink. let's take a look at the second sentence. Would you like, then we have French fries. French fries. What are we going to use? Some. Would you like some French fries with your steak? Would you like some French fries with your steak? So here we did use the word some. Now, how about this one? I want something here, burger with something here and onion. What are we going to use? A or some? I want a burger. I can count burger with some onions. With some onions. Now, how about this one? Can I have, then we have chicken and we have green salad. So what are we going to use? Can I have some chicken and a green salad? Can I have some chicken and green salad? So, how about the next one? I'd like something, piece of cheesecake. Now, piece of cheesecake, what are we going to use? We're going to use a piece of cheesecake, only one. Now, how about I'd like, here we have egg, we have cup of coffee. What are we going to use? I'd like some eggs and a cup of coffee, only one cup of coffee. Now, the next one, how about we have turkey sandwiches, S. We have turkey sandwiches for lunch. So, how about some turkey sandwiches for lunch? Okay, now I'm thirsty. May I have a glass of water? So, only one. So, what are we going to use? A glass of water. Now, did you see the difference between a and some? A for singulars and some for plurals. Now, let's take a look here. We want to complete the conversation using some, any, order, and would like. Let's read and try to put choose the missing word, the correct word for these spaces, okay? So the conversation between Omar and Tony. Omar said, "Is this Giano Italian restaurant?" Tony said, "Yes, it is. This is Tony speaking. How can I help you?" Omar said, "I want some food for delivery." Which word is the suitable one? Some, any, or order? So it looks like it's a phone call, right? So he's asking, "Is this the restaurant?" And he said, "Yes, what would you like to order?" So the correct answer here is, I want to order some food for delivery. Tony said, "What something here?" What is the question going to look like? What would you like? What would you like? So because here we have what and then we have would like, that means he's going to is asking for a specific thing, right? So Omar said, "I'd like minestrone soup and the lasagna bolognese." So what is going to be the suitable word for this space? I'd like some minestrone soup, this kind of soup. I'd like some soup and the lasagna. So now here, do you have, for apple juice, what are we going to use? Do you have any apple juice? I'm asking, but I'm not sure, right? Do you have any apple juice? The answer could be yes or no. But what is the answer going to look like? So Tony said, "Sorry," that means it's no. "Sorry, we don't have any juice. We don't have any." But if they did have juice, they're going to say, "Sorry, yes, we do have some juice." It's not going to be any. But because here the answer is negative, so "Sorry, we don't have any juice." Would you like the replacement? It's the coffee. Would you like some coffee or would you like any coffee? Because we're using here any because it's a question. But because this is also offering, we can use the word some. Would you like some coffee or would you like any coffee? Now, Omar said, "Yes, please, 2 cups of hot coffee." Tony said, "Anything else?" Omar said, "Yes, don't forget to include something here, garlic bread. It's so delicious." So for garlic bread, what are we going to use? We're using some. don't forget to include some garlic bread. Now, what did we do in today's lesson? We differentiated between count and non-count nouns. What can we use with the count nouns and non-count nouns? And we used expression of quantity. A cup of water, a bottle of juice, a piece of cake. Now, and after knowing all of these things, so when are we going to use some, and when are we going to use any, and when are we going to add a or an for the singular or the plurals? Now, for your homework, what are you going to do? You're going to take a look at the picture, you have a keyword, and ask and answer. I want a question and an answer. Here, you have the juice in the picture, right? So the keyword here is juice. Here, the question is going to look like this. Is there any juice? We have any because it's a question. So look here, you can answer with yes or no. But if you're using yes or using no, what are the things inside the sentence that you need to keep it in your mind? If the answer is no, it's going to look like this. No, there isn't any juice. But what if the answer is yes? Yes, there's some juice, right? Now, we'll take a look at these pictures. This is an example for how are you going to do this homework. Here we have pasta and you have eggs. So ask and answer a yes-no question. And what are you going to use? Some or any for the question and the answer. And we are going to check in the next lesson. We're going to check the answers together. Thank you, my dear students, and I will see you in the next lesson.